Welcome to episode 19 of the Bariatric Nutrition Coach podcast. And this episode I've called When Your Hunger Returns After Your Weight Loss Surgery. So this is such a common struggle and area of concern for people after their weight loss surgery. It really does warrant a whole episode on this topic. So what can you notice and what does it feel and look like when your hunger, your appetite is coming back after your weight loss surgery? It may be that you notice you can start eating a bit more than you did before, that you can't get the same length of time in between a meal and snack, that what you were eating, if you stay eating that same amount of food, that you can't as comfortably get to the next meal or snack. And if and when you notice your appetite, hunger coming back, I get it, it's scary and it will be very concerning for you. So I want to first go into the fact that it's actually very normal for your appetite and for your hunger to return after your weight loss surgery. Often people will say hunger and cravings. Often with cravings, there is a hunger component. We're not talking so much about cravings today because cravings also can have an emotional component. I always just want to talk about the return of appetite. And it is very normal to be able to, one, eat more over time after your surgery and also notice that feeling of hunger more as you progress from your surgery. So that's really the first point I want to delve into, is that it's actually very normal. And people can feel that something's not quite right, that they should be staying on these really, really small portions for a long, long period of time, and that they know someone else that didn't, have any appetite until they were 18 months after surgery, but maybe like 6 months after surgery and you're really noticing you're feeling hungrier, and it can be very concerning. But I just want to let you know that one, it is very normal and it is expected. And the plus side of having more appetite as you move further from your surgery is that one, it's easier to get to your protein goals. So that's a lovely benefit, as well as we can start getting more of I call them the other foods, into your diet. So if you follow me, you'll know a little bit what I mean by other foods, but they are the whole grains, the fruit and the vegetables. So in the early to medium days, the focus is so much on protein. Your plate can look so protein focused. We want to, in time, balance that out a bit more, get more of those other foods in, and that is easier to achieve as you can eat a bit more over time. So I'm going to talk today about three strategies you can do to help you manage your appetite as you move further after your surgery and when you notice your hunger returning. These are three nutrition strategies, and I'm going to go through them one by one and explain why they are so powerful in helping you manage your appetite after your weight loss surgery. So if you're listening to this podcast and you are like, yes, Jane, my appetite has come back, is returning, or I've had a big appetite for some time now, the first strategy that I'm going to suggest or talk to you about is getting regular meals and snacks. So yes, you would have heard me talk about this previously, and the reasons why we want regular meals and snacks are really the same across your whole weight loss surgery journey, but the benefit that having regular meals and snacks has when your appetite, your hunger has returned, is that eating regularly helps you regulate your appetite. It helps you spread out your intake to feed your cells regularly so your appetite doesn't get away from you, so to speak. When you have regular meals and snacks, and I'll be talking about protein next, but when we have nice regular meals and snacks that have a good amount of protein in them, it helps you comfortably get to the next meal It feeds your cells, so it feeds that appetite. And it also ensures that you get to the next meal and snack not so hungry that you can't tackle that meal or snack the way we would like you to tackle it or eat it. And that is small bites, chew well, and eat slowly. If you don't eat regularly and you haven't eaten for some time and you get to the next meal or snack over hungry, it is so hard and virtually impossible for you to have those small bites, chew well, eat slowly, and stop when you're satisfied. That's a key. Not eating regularly is a key factor in why people overeat at meals. And eating regularly is really one of the key things that I work with my clients on if they're struggling with their appetite. That's the first thing. We just make sure there are regular meals and snacks happening. And this can be really challenging for lots of people because, one, before surgery, their default way of eating was, grab and go and not being planned, not meal planning, not thinking ahead. And so that very much on the go type of eating. Also, before surgery, you could eat enough at meals to sustain you for a long time. After surgery, you can't eat that volume of food. We need to eat small, regular meals. Also, when we come back to and we establish eating regular meals, what we are doing is also putting a good amount of your intake into the early part of your day. That breakfast, that mid-morning, that lunch. And that is so important to help you feel satisfied later in the day and after dinner. And they can be really common hotspots for people when their hunger is built up. They get home from work or they're in front of the TV at night. Not only is there are emotions, at the end of the day, wanting a reward, wanting to numb out, but also if you haven't eaten enough in that early part of the day, you'll have hunger and appetite mixed in with those emotions later in the day, and they will drive you to eat. And as I say, when you're really hungry and you've got some emotions, cravings, you don't reach for broccoli and salmon. That's not what comes to mind. What comes to mind are your high energy foods, the discretionary foods. So the first thing I suggest to you, if you are noticing your appetite coming back, noticing, you're getting hungrier after your weight loss surgery, is really check in. Are you eating regular meals and snacks? Can you comfortably get from one meal or snack to the next meal or snack? And this can be very personal for people on what the gap is between their meals and snacks. And also another challenge people have is their lifestyle, their job, their career. That can be a real challenge, and it might be something that you're thinking about as I'm talking. My job doesn't support me. My days and what I have to do in my days don't support me to eating regularly. I just want you to know that I've worked with so many people over the years with really challenging days, challenging schedules. There's ways and little strategies we can put into place to help you have regular intake through your day. So it is very possible. It can be more challenging for some people than others, definitely. But I just want you to know it's really, really important, and it's a really key habit that I encourage you to work on. So we've talked about getting regular meals and snacks as a habit, as an eating schedule. So that's the first strategy, or the first thing that I would be encouraging you to work on and look at in your diet. Now, the next one is, it starts with P. You know what I'm going to say, it's protein. And you're probably surprised actually that it wasn't the first one, but no, I've put it as number 2. So protein. Now let's talk protein and why we're going to look at protein if your hunger, or when your hunger and appetite return after your weight loss surgery. Protein has so many wonderful benefits for us. It helps with a whole range of metabolic functions. When you eat enough protein, your body keeps its lean body mass, your muscle mass, which we want to keep. So, all of those things are wonderful. But protein as a macronutrient in the diet is what we call a high satiety nutrient. And what that is, it means that high protein foods are going to keep you satisfied for longer, going to keep you satisfied with lower energy intake compared to fat, the macros of fat and carbohydrates. Protein is just wonderful in that way. So if you notice that your appetite, your hunger's coming back, you want to check in. Are you eating adequate protein over your whole day? When did you last track? Do you feel comfortable tracking? Do you know how to track your protein? These are the questions that I'd be encouraging you to ask yourself. Do you know how to track your protein? When did you last track? Are you eating enough over the day? Do you know how much are recommended to eat? What's roughly your goal? Do you know your goal? And one, is it adequate? So there's a whole, I'm going to first say there's the whole protein, your whole protein intake. What you eat over the whole day is one factor to consider. The other factor that I look at when I'm working with clients, and I encourage you to look at, and you will see this when you track, is what's the spread of your protein over your day. And we want to spread our protein. You want to spread your protein over your whole day. And you want to put a good portion of it in that early part of the day. And that takes very much focus, and it's very deliberate, because generally speaking, before surgery, and most people that haven't had bariatric surgery and don't do this deliberately, we generally will have lower intake of protein in the early part of the day and most of our protein later in the day. There are so many benefits to putting a good portion of your protein in that early part of the day. Research shows that we have less hunger and less cravings later in the day when we put a good portion of our protein earlier in the day. So with protein, the key factors that I would be encouraging to look at are you eating enough protein over your whole day? Like that's your total intake. 2, it's the spread of your protein. Are you spreading your protein out? Also, another part of the protein conversation is that some protein foods are just more satisfying. And as a general guideline, the more solid the protein foods, the meats and those foods that are a bit more dense, less of those foods are needed to keep you satisfied for longer. They are more filling. And what you can look at which meals and snacks are the ones that really keep me sustained and satisfied for longer. And there is a very high correlation with the protein content of that meal and often the types of protein foods in those meals. I never tell any of my clients to eat foods that they don't enjoy. It's about finding foods and meals and snacks that you really love, but also keep you satisfied for longer. So if your hunger, your appetite's coming back after your weight loss surgery, when it does, we want to look at regular meals, protein intake, and the third area that I encourage you to look at and focus on to help you manage your appetite is your fiber intake. So fiber is really forgotten a lot. It's not something that lots of people talk about, but it is so beneficial. It's beneficial for a whole range of reasons. We're talking your gut health, the whole gut microbiome health, also being regular and going to the toilet. And that can be a real struggle for many people after their weight loss surgery. Fluid intake and fiber intake are super key to being regular and ensuring you don't get constipated. So that's definitely the key focus with fiber intake after bariatric surgery. But I want to talk about fiber intake in this situation to help keep you satisfied for longer. Fiber is just not one nutrient. Fiber is really a banner of a whole range of different nutrients that we classify as fiber. And that's why a varied diet is a healthy diet, because when you can eat more, when you can get some more whole grains, some fruit and vegetables in, you actually can get more fiber in. And fiber, like protein, keeps you satisfied for longer. So if you've forgotten fiber, now is a great time for you to re-look at fiber and look at how you can build some nice high fiber foods into each meal and snack. So we're not talking big volumes, we're talking a little bit here and a little bit there, but what happens is your fiber intake over your whole day builds up, and you also, when you include those high fiber foods into each meal and snack, that helps you keep satisfied for longer. So I'm talking things like whole grain cereals, other whole grains and whole grain cereals for breakfast, whole grain crackers, vegetables, and obviously when it's the right time and when you can, leave some skins on, have some seeds. Further down the track after your weight loss surgery, we start really gently, but we start having some of those things also with fruits, with some skins on in time, and that helps boost fiber. Because early days, we need to be really aware of that. But in the long term, we want to go back to having some of those forms of fiber in our diet. So just to recap, if or when you notice your appetite coming back after your weight loss surgery, we want to take a deep breath and know there are strategies to help you manage your appetite. Regular meals, getting regular meals and snacks into your day as a habit. Protein, are you eating adequate protein? Are you spreading out your protein over your whole day? And the third one is fiber. Are you including enough fiber in your diet? Are you getting some high fiber foods in each of your meals and snacks? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you are finding value in each episode that I'm publishing. And if you are finding value and you know somebody that you think would also like this podcast, I would love you to share it with them, to suggest to listen, as I want to help and support as many people as I can. Thank you so much, and I look forward to being back in your ears next week.